Before we get started with the video, I would just like to give a shout out to the Twitter or X account, Mamdani Watch. This account has been a big help to me in terms of getting stories and timelines correctly. Recently, they've been hit with a lot of false flags from the very rabid, radical left. I'm assuming they are Mamdani fans or voters. And the person running this account was almost decided to shut down the account and stop their reporting because of all the attacks and the false flags and whatnot. But they got some lawyer representation, and now they're right back up and running. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to them, and continue on with the good work. And without further ado, let's get into this.
Previously on the Red Wing.
So, where do we leave off at?
It wants to be free. Look at it. Look at it. It's chained up like an animal. It's an innocent animal. Free it. Free it. Free it. Free it. Free it.
Someone threw something.
Hey, Ray. Back up!
Don't do that. Back up.
Listen, there's a goat. There's a goat, right? You got a goat right there. You got a goat, right? Can I get goat? What are they trying to do? He didn't do it. Move back away from it. Back away.
Back up.
Support white liberal women. It wants to be free. Look at it.
Support the white liberal women. They're killing people. Whoa.
What the fuck? That was a fucking bomb.
Was it? Somebody threw a fucking bomb, bro. That's a nail bomb. Shit.
What the fuck?
I didn't sign up for this.
Identified as Amir Balat, an 18-year-old man, lit and threw an ignited device toward the protest area, landing in the crosswalk of East 87th Street and East End Avenue. Witnesses reported seeing flames and smoke as it traveled through the air before it struck a barrier and extinguished itself a few feet from police officers. Mr. Balat then ran southbound on East End Avenue toward 86th Street and gets a second device from a man tentatively ID'd as Ibrahim Nick, 19 years old. Mr. Balat lights the device and starts running with it. He then drops the device on the west side of East End Avenue between East 86th and East 87th Streets. Officers immediately secured the area and they took both men into custody. This was all captured on NYPD Argus.
Outside Gracie Mansion, where I live with my wife Rama. Neither of us were home at the time. This was a vile protest rooted in white supremacy entitled Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York City. I'm the first Muslim mayor of our city. Anti-Muslim bigotry is nothing new to me, nor is it anything new for the 1 million or so Muslim New Yorkers who know this city as our home. While I found this protest appalling, I will not waver in my belief that it should be allowed to happen. Ours is a free society where the right to peaceful protest is sacred. It does not belong only to those we agree with. It belongs to everyone. I will defend that right every day that I am mayor, even when those protesting say things that I abhor. Let me also be clear about something else. New York City will never tolerate violence, whether from protests or counter-protests. Many of the counter-protesters met this display of bigotry peacefully, with a vision of a city that is welcoming to all. But a few did not. Two men, Amir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi, traveled from Pennsylvania and attempted to bring violence to New York City. They are suspected of coming here to commit an act of terrorism.
Walter, the NYPD says the two men from Bucks County were arrested on Saturday and remain in custody as the FBI launches a terrorism investigation. Now, earlier this evening, the FBI blocked off Clymer Street to raid that house where one of the suspects live. And as you can see, law enforcement remains here at this hour.
There is video of these two individuals throwing two devices towards the protest. The police department has determined that these were improvised explosive devices made to injure, maim, or worse. Thanks to the swift and decisive actions of NYPD officers at the scene.
Fuck thanking the NYPD. He should be kissing their asses. You know, remember as he tries to demonize and fucking gut them? You know, remember when he planned on cutting 5,000 new officers and proposing $22 million cuts in the NYPD budget? You know? How about when he created a new office, the Mayor's Office of Community Safety on the 19th to divert mental health and some non-violent 911 calls away from uniformed officers? Remember that? More on that later, by the way. How about when he fucking downplayed the February 2026 incident in which cops were being pelted and injured with fucking snowballs, but he just said they were just playing like kids. Fuck that. Fuck that guy.
Both men were immediately taken into custody, and the devices they brought taken off of our streets. I want to commend the officers who were on site. They faced a chaotic situation that very quickly could have become far more dangerous. NYPD Chief Aaron Edwards and Sergeant Luis Navarro ran towards the danger so that others could run to safety. They are here with us now, and I want to thank them today publicly as I did yesterday privately.
So then a couple days later after this incident, Mamdani and his wife Rama, more on her later, hosted the very pro-Palestine activist Mahmoud Khalil and his family for Ramadan dinner at the Gracie Mansion to mark 1 year since his ICE detention. Mamdani praised Khalil's courage on Instagram and declared him a New Yorker who belongs in the city. He, a former Columbia student, was accused of Hamas support and faces deportation under the Trump administration. This dinner has drawn sharp criticism from the White House and pro-Israel groups.
In an historic move today, Mayor Mamdani rolled out the Office of LGBTQIA+ Affairs. It's first of its kind in the city. From securing housing to employment, the office vows to level the playing field for the community. And Andrew Ramos has this story from Crown Heights.
Fulfilling a campaign promise, Mayor Mamdani signed an executive order Friday paving the way for the city's first ever Mayor's Office of LGBTQIA+ Affairs.
Excuse me, I thought you were facing a $5.5 billion budget gap. You ain't got the money to be fucking funding all of these other offices and shit. Like, you should be trying to cut spending. You don't have the money for all of this shit you're trying to put in place, but you got money to put in an office for LGBTQIA+ affairs and a deputy mayor's office for community safety? The fuck? So you're trying to get money from everybody. You're trying to get money from all the rich folks that are literally hightailing it out in New York, but you got the money for all of this and other shit? Oh my God, get your fucking finances up, bro.
Installing Taylor Brown, an attorney in the Civil Rights Bureau for the New York State Attorney General, as its new director.
Because it is personal to her. Taylor will be the first out trans woman to lead a city office in New York City history.
This is not a culture war. We are not the enemy. We are your neighbors.
With Brown's leadership, the office will oversee and implement LGBTQIA+ initiatives across city agencies that range from legal resources for sanctuary protections to ensuring agencies do not engage in discrimination based on gender, gender identity, or sexual orientation. The community tonight is reacting.
Especially in today's age and our current government situation, it's good to see something like that happen.
Any way that we can figure out to reconnect and build community is so important.
Brown, now serving the city, she says gave her so much.
New York City has been the place that has given me, again, life-saving health care, my education, a career.
She's gonna make sure that everybody gonna be somebody.
Now, the creation of the office comes at a time where federal rollbacks are targeting the trans community, namely NYU Langone recently announcing that it was ending medical treatment for transgender youth. A decision the hospital made after it became at risk of losing federal funding. It's an issue the new city office plans to address.
And I am frankly looking forward to working with our new director.
In Crown Heights, Andrew Ramos, CBS News, New York.
The mayor of New York typically tries to speed up what he thinks is needed in this city. But now, Mayor Mamdani today proposing a new law that will slow down the city. That's right, slow down the city, at least when it comes to cars driving near schools. 15 miles an hour will be the law outside every school in the city. That's what the plan is. The mayor says it will take some time to actually post the signs, but he says it's going to happen and lives will be saved. Here's NJ Burkett.
Daniqua was an aspiring college student with hopes and dreams.
Jelaine Williams lost her daughter Daniqua Cook to a speeding, reckless driver. Ms. Williams and others have insisted that the city's 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is too high. Today, Mayor Mamdani said the critics are right.
NYPD data shows that speeding causes 25% of all traffic fatalities. It is one of the primary causes of pedestrian death in New York City.
On most New York City streets, the speed limit is 25 miles per hour, enforced by hundreds of speed cameras, most of them in school zones. 700 school zones have 20-mile-per-hour limits. 800 of them will be reduced to 15 miles per hour this year, and all 2,300 school zones will have 15-mile-per-hour limits by 2030. The move comes more than a decade after the death of 12-year-old Sammy Cohen Eckstein, who was struck and killed by a speeding car in Brooklyn in 2013.
If you ask me, I do not think that this is what the law is based around. Not wholly. I think this has more to do with two things. One, first off, can we talk about? I don't think 25 miles an hour is a speeding sort of speed. Like, how fast are you really going at 25 miles an hour to where you're hitting somebody? I think somebody went way past that, and the driver who committed this went way past that 25 miles an hour, and they're using 25 miles an hour as his benchmark to enact this sort of law. But you minimizing it now to 15 miles an hour, that is just going to cause so much more traffic and so much more irritations on the streets, which leads me to what I really think this is about. I think Kathy Hochul and Mamdani want more people taking public transportation. What else could they possibly? This is through all of the stuff that the two have done, with especially pertaining to the congestion pricing on Kathy Hochul's part, Mamdani, the push for more fare evasion enforcement on the MTA. This is a ploy to try to get more people taking public transportation. That's what I think this is about.
Okay, so let's just get directly into what Zohran Mamdani's wife had to say out of her own keyboard warrior mouth. In 2013, Zohran Mamdani's wife tweeted, hell yeah, and then hard R N-word. Okay, then she goes, I think it was the gay ass people from Instagram that finally motivated me to get off the internet. Okay, kind of see the vision there. She makes various tweets where she just says the F slur over and over again, like talking about like, you know, the homophobic F slur. Then she praised Leila Khalid, a terrorist plane hijacker, and expressed admiration for her willingness to accept death for the cause. So here she is literally praising a suicide bomber as if that's something that's totally normal and not something that we should be, you know, having red flags about. And then she had all kind of criticism of U.S. troops saying that they're not brave. She has other ones saying that Tel Aviv should not exist in the first place. She reposts a bunch of posts that are just like praising these freedom fighters, aka the Hamas members that went and were wreaking havoc on October 7th. And as it was all happening, she was praising these terrorists, these Hamas terrorists during October 7th in real time. And she also goes and blames white people for Al Qaeda.
It's an off-topic question. I'd like to know what your reaction was to the article in the Jewish Insider that was posted about your wife's social media activity. And what I'm wondering is, you know, you're an elected official. She is not. Is it anybody's business, and is it fair to question you about it?
You know, my wife is the love of my life, and she's also a private person who has held no formal position on my campaign or in my city hall. I, however, was elected to represent all 8.5 million people in this city, and I believe that it's my responsibility, because of that role, to answer any questions about my thoughts and my policies and my decisions.
You know what I'm getting really sick and tired of, and I see it within Rama here and a lot of these free Palestine protesters, these liberal people. They all have so much contempt and hatred for this country, yet they're profiting from the exact system that they claim to hate. I mean, look at Rama. She went to fucking she went to study illustration as a visual essay in the School of Visual Art. She obtained a Master of Fine Arts in 2024. Like, she seems to be, and especially within her parents, she seems to be doing very well for herself. And yet she has all of this shit, all of this fucking contempt and hatred for this fucking country. But what I'm even more getting sick and tired of are these fucking libs throwing around that N-word. You know, I don't care much about the N-word. I really don't. But I got a real issue with these so-called inclusive liberals, and they're sitting here talking all of this shit, especially her, talking all of this fucking shit and throwing around the F slur and the N slur and all this other shit. But you're supposed to be the inclusive party. You're supposed to be respectful of people's backgrounds and fucking races, religions, sexual orientations, and all that shit. Yet behind closed doors, you are just as much pieces of shit as everybody else. God, fucking phonies y'all are. So on March 18th, Mamdani announced a major policy shift reversing a Eric Adams era NYPD practice that treated cyclists and e-bike riders more harshly than drivers for the same minor traffic violations. So starting March 27, 2026, the NYPD will stop issuing criminal summons for low-level offenses like running a stop sign or red light. Instead, riders will receive the same civil summons, fines payable by mail, typically around $190 for a red light violation that motorists get. No mandatory criminal court appearances, no risk of bench warrants or arrest for failing to show up. Mamdani described the old system as punitive, one that disproportionately burdens working New Yorkers, especially immigrant delivery workers who rely on bikes and e-bikes for their livelihoods. In my humble opinion, I think that bikers definitely need to be treated the same as motorists. I have visited New York City many a times, and there have been many a times that I have been hit by bikers who totally failed to stop at a red light or a stop sign. They ride around with this sense of entitlement that I do not understand. They think that they are above people driving cars and shit. I think they need to be treated exactly the same as motorists, if not harshly, if you ask me. If we're going to be giving bikers their own lanes and shit, which is honestly tying up traffic in New York, then they need to be subjected to much more harsher penalties than drivers do. Just because I find them to be much more disruptive and much more dangerous on the road than the cars. Just my opinion. So I think this is just a very petty move on Mamdani's part. He filed a motion for the city to stop representing Mayor Eric Adams, the former New York City Mayor Eric Adams, in his sexual assault case. Now, listen, I don't know what the circumstances are in his case, but I do find it very petty on Mamdani's part, especially considering the amount of shit that Eric Adams has been talking on Twitter about Mamdani, rightfully so, by the way. But this is just a very petty move from Mamdani. There's no way around it.
For the entrepreneurs who support our neighborhoods, so the local businesses that make our city great stay open year-round.
Let's jump to communist New York City, because moron Zamboni has now announced the Future Fund, and they even put cute music in it, and he smiles a lot, and here's what they're going to do for small businesses.
Small businesses are the staples of our communities. Together, they keep our city running, and without them, our city wouldn't survive.
And for a small business, keeping the lights on can be a challenge, especially as revenues change throughout the year for seasonal shops.
So New York City needs to do everything in its power to make sure that small businesses succeed. That's why we're excited to announce that applications are once again open for the NYC Future Fund.
The NYC Future Fund ensures small business owners have a loan program catered to their individual needs, such as
reduced minimum revenue requirements, lower minimum loan size, affordable interest rates,
and flexible monthly repayment terms that adjust with seasonal revenues. Because a tough winter shouldn't put your ice cream shop under.
We're building a fairer economy for the entrepreneurs who support our neighborhoods, so the local businesses that make our city great stay open year-round.
Corny, cheap, ridiculous. It's a loan trap. The city will eventually own the company. That's what they are going to do with everything. The companies will all be reliant on the city. The city, in essence, will become the bank. It is completely ridiculous. And it's not just that. It's not just that. New York City residents are finding out very quickly that free is not actually free. Did anyone warn them about any of this stuff? I thought this was interesting from Wall Street Maverick on X. New York City Mayor Socialist Zohran Mamdani has proposed lowering the exemption on the death tax, also known as the estate tax, from $7.1 million down to only $750,000. He would also increase the death tax from 16% to 50%. No other jurisdiction in the USA confiscates wealth at death from people with that small of an estate. Anyone with any equity in a home in New York City would likely exceed that $750,000 and have to pay the death tax. There is a federal estate death tax for estate wealth that exceeds 15 million individuals. However, you can deduct other state and city estate taxes before paying the federal estate tax. So effectively, Mamdani is preventing the federal government from taxing estates. New York City and New York State are taking it all first.
So on top of trying to impose a property tax on the middle class in New York, he's trying to impose a tax on people's estate and lowering it from, I think it was $7 million to now $750,000, which is going to send even more New Yorkers out of the city, which I find it hilarious that he then comes out and starts saying this.
Amidst being in the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we already see an exodus of working and middle-class New Yorkers. So I don't have a hesitation in asking those who make the most amount of money in the city or the most profits in the city to pay a little bit more so that everyone can actually stay in this city. It's also something not just about justice or or the ability for working class people to live here. It is also actually about ensuring that corporations can continue to attract the top talent to this city. Because in a city where childcare costs more than $20,000 a year, I've heard from corporate leaders about how difficult it is for them to attract individuals who would work at their companies but want to raise a family, because you could be making $300,000 a year and you will feel that $20,000 a year because of the fact that we have allowed for the absence of affordable childcare to become reality here in this city.
I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state. Right? Now, there are some patriotic millionaires who stepped up. Okay, cut me the checks. I mean, just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay. We saw that that's not the case. I mean, Wall Street businesses looking at Texas, they're not going there because they have a nicer governor. I know that for sure.
If you're a rich and wealthy person in New York City right now, why the hell would you want to stay there? It makes perfect sense for them to want to move to where there's low taxes. It makes perfect sense. Like, the wealthiest of New Yorkers are facing a combined marginal rate of about 14.8% from New York State and New York City alone, on top of the federal rates that can reach up to 37%, meaning high earners in New York City are often losing nearly half of each dollar to taxes. So add that on to the fact that Mamdani is trying to get a property tax onto people if he doesn't get his wealth tax, and then add that on top of the fact that Mamdani is trying to get this whole estate tax put in place. Why the fuck would you want to remain in New York City? Of course they'd want to move. So on March 19th, Mamdani appointed Renita Francois as deputy mayor for community safety and simultaneously signed an executive order creating the city's first ever mayor's office of community safety. With more than 15 years of experience in community safety initiatives, including her previous roles in the de Blasio administration's Office of Criminal Justice, Francois will oversee the centralization of violence prevention programs, mental health crises response teams such as Be Heard, victim services, and gun violence prevention efforts across multiple city agencies. The new office serves as an initial step forward, realizing Mamdani's campaign to pledge and establish a broader Department of Community Safety, emphasizing coordinated and community-centered strategies grounded in dignity and care so that all New Yorkers feel safe in their neighborhoods, blah, blah, blah. Now, of course, when I heard this story, excuse me, I couldn't help but to think that this was very, very ridiculous and a waste of an office. And to do so, to tell you how ridiculous it is, I would like to enlist the help of a very drunken donut operator.
The demonetized police thing is they wanted to privatize police. So, like, your own neighborhood polices themselves. Do you know what's going to happen?
Oh, you're talking about like the community.
Privatized police started with the Nazi. They call them. Do you know what's going to happen? The people with low income, so like the Section 8 housing, they're going to police themselves, and you're going to have less for police officers. You're going to have these shitheads that don't police well. Guess what the high income areas are going to have? They're going to have Delta guys, SILs. They're going to have like these badass motherfuckers policing their area. So like in my neighborhood, I would have.
You think the higher things would have the
higher income would have the higher things. So here's what's going to happen.
I think the lower ones would have actual.
Hold on, Jake.
Jake,
watch me on this one.
Sorry. All right.
Watch me on this one. They won't privatize policing. So you're going to have the mall cops in the lower income areas.
All right.
And then in the higher income areas that I live in, they're going to have Delta guys. They're gonna have fucking former SEALs because I'm gonna be like, yeah, dude, I'll pay you
Contractors, essentially.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay you $60 a year just to walk around my neighborhood. Fuck yeah. And what's gonna happen?
Academy comes to America.
The lower incomes are gonna say, well, we want the same security that the higher people have. You know what they're gonna fucking create? Police officers. Police.
Exactly. All of these initiatives that Mamdani wants to create just to try to get rid of policing, it's only just going to reignite the community's urge for actual policing. But don't tell them that, because they think they know best. Well, anyway, that's all I have for you today. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. But until the next video, take care, be safe out there, and remember, New York City, you voted for this.